It's the last trading day of the month, and what a great month it's been if you were a bull. You've made big money in names like, in the infrastructure, banking space, etc. This morning, the SGX Nifty is suggesting a flat start, but let's see which way it goes. A lot of global cues to juxtapose as well. Some weakness seen in China, etc. But our research team is here to give you the list of top 10 stocks as we head into trade today. Here they are. Hi guys, morning. Anuj, what are you looking at today?
You know, Sonia, today, of course, you would look at all the oil sensitives. There's a big decline in Brent crude prices. So, aviation, paint stocks, oil marketing companies. But that's an obvious trade, so not looking at that. I think for me, Godfrey is interesting because it's a stock which corrected to 200-day moving average yesterday. And just looking at the internals of the numbers, I think, and reading Mangalam Slug, what stood out was that the cigarette business performance was actually quite good. There was quite a bit of increase in the ad spends, which led to that EBITDA number. So, it could be an interesting stock for me. So that's on the green side. On the red side, Eicher Motors, it's it was down in a strong market. I think the market perhaps fears that the de-rating is not done yet, and perhaps this month's numbers would also be bad. So ahead of that, there could be perhaps some selling in the stock.
Okay, Sonal, ONGC numbers?
Well, ONGC reported weak set of numbers, Lata. The operating profit margins, they came in at 46% versus an expectation of 51%, and it implies a decline of 1400 basis points on a sequential basis. Most of the costs have gone up. The other expenses, exploratory costs, and also the cost of materials, all of them have gone up from around 8 to 46% this time around. The profits, they have come in at 4,000 crores versus an expectation of 6,200 crore rupees. So it was a top-down miss. Macquarie says they have an outperform call with a target price of 210 rupees per share. They say that the EBITDA and EPS was significantly below the estimates. However, the company has not borne any subsidy burden in FY19. CLSA, they have increased the target to 285 from 240. They say a lot of one-offs actually led to the miss this time around.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for that. That was a quick snapshot of all the numbers. But Rima is also here with us to tell us about Bharti and how that stock could react today. Rima?
Hi Sonia. So yesterday the company came out with the internals of their numbers on account of that ongoing rights issue. When the company declared numbers 2 weeks ago, they had only reported the headline numbers, the statutory financials as they call it. Now we have the margin picture, the ARPUs, the volumes, etc. And the numbers are looking very good for the India business. Revenue growth ahead of what the street was anticipating. We've seen an improvement quarter on quarter as well as year on year basis. Margins have come in at 24%. This is the first time the company's margins have improved on a sequential basis after Jio's launch. And it's an account of an improvement in ARPU. So ARPUs have increased by 18% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. The other businesses are steady. Africa has had a flattish quarter. And I just want to mention D2H business because this also had a steady quarter despite the disruption from the TRAI tariff order.
So good one, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, good to hear that. Okay, Nigel had a lot of work on his plate with Coal India and SAIL and NALCO, but he's not keeping well. His stock show partner, Mangalam, is going to tell us how those numbers look.
Well, I have two greens and one red, Lata. So we have Coal India, which was a strong beat. The sales came in at 7.5% higher, but the realizations, that is where the positivity came in. Both the FSA realizations and e-auction realizations were much above what the street was working with. The EBITDA came in at 8,300 crores. The street was working with a number of around 7,200 to 7,300 crores itself. And the net profit came in at 6,000 crores. And this compares with 1,300 crores that the company had posted in the base quarter. Though the base quarter had a one-off, even if you adjust for that, these numbers are good. At the same time, we had weak numbers coming in from Steel Authority of India, or SAIL that is. And that's because despite the revenues growing at around 8.5%, the volumes grew by 13%. So that's telling you there was a fair amount of realization pressure, as a result of which we saw the EBITDA, the gross margins decline, and the net profit came in lower by 43% as well. And finally, good numbers coming in for NALCO. We had the revenues decline, but the operating profit was a big positive. In fact, the margins expanded as against an expectations of decline. So see a green tick on NALCO, and Coal India. SAIL would see some red.
Okay, I must say you wear your metals hat with as much ease as you wear your FMCG hat, Mangalam. Thanks for that. But moving on, Abhishek is also not in, so Lata stepping in for him on Ujjivan and IDBI Bank.
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to add, SAIL would have been in the red anyway. Today is not a great day for metals, going by the international pressures. But to stick in for on Ujjivan, it looks like good numbers. I mean, decent amount of NII growth over 20%, but most important is the improvement in asset quality. The gross NPAs have come down to 0.9%. It was 1.4. So, 0.5% fall is not laughable at all. Almost a quarter percentage point of the NPAs have gone, and the net NPA is at 0.3. That's as it was. Coming to IDBI, I mean, it will look like a howler of a number, but you must know that this was a development financial bank, and therefore it had deep pain because of the infrastructure, steel, power, all of them failing in India in the last 5 to 10 years. So the numbers will look terrible, but they're actually an improvement because they were even more terrible a quarter ago and a year ago. So I want to point out that the gross NPA is at 50,000 crore. Not a small number, but it was 55,000 crore. The net NPA is at 14,000 crore. It was 21,000 crore. So I would think that this actually deserves a green. But then again today, I would just worry that the global cues are not looking too good.
Okay, IDBI Bank not as bad as the previous quarters, but Anisha has a string of infrastructure numbers to talk about. Anisha, more bad news than good?
Well, it's actually a mixed set coming in from most of the companies. So Suzlon, for example, the revenue has plunged by 35%, but the losses have also narrowed. The bigger issue, however, is the fact that auditors have raised going concern on a part of the business. Moving on to KNR, wherein this was not the case, the management actually was able to beat the FY19 guidance. A moderate revenue growth of around 15%, and the PAT also grew in a similar manner. Nomura has a buy call with a target price of 305, giving a thumbs up to the Q4 numbers. For Gayatri Projects, the revenue as well as the PAT spiked by around 23%, so that's a positive. For Sadbhav Engineering, both the income and the net profit declined year on year, so I'm expecting a red tick there. The only saving grace is the margin there. Bharat Dynamics, the revenue and PAT plunged 56% and 63% down. For Jain Irrigation, the bigger disappointment is on operating margins, below 10% versus over 20% expected, and the balance sheet worsened.
Okay, thanks a lot for that, Anisha. Suzlon is one big worry for the banking sector. And it's not really the company's fault. Discoms are not paying power generators, and power generators are not buying wind generation equipment. That whole line is now kind of in the limbo. Well, let's get down to just a few. Like I was telling you before, metal stocks, because of the global slowdown, should be impacted. So watch out for Hindalco, Vedanta, and even the steel stocks, JSW and SAIL. The global slowdown looks a little terrible. I'm not very sure how the crude fall is going to react. It may not be positive for the banking stocks. Normally it is, because yields fall, and that's positive for banks. But this time around, since it's because of a slowdown, I think the Nifty Bank will struggle a bit.
Okay, the Nifty Bank could struggle a bit. I mean, it has given its fair share of returns over the last month or so. So, I mean, some profit taking cannot be ruled out. It should be the most logical thing to do, perhaps. But here's a quick recap of our top stocks with positive news flow: Godfrey Phillips, Bharti Airtel, Coal India, Nalco, Ujjivan, KNR Construction and Gayatri Projects. While stocks with negative news flow, you have Eicher Motors, ONGC, SAIL, IDBI Bank, Suzlon, Bharat Dynamics, Sadbhav Engineering, Jain Irrigation, Vedanta, Hindalco, JSW Steel and the Nifty Bank. But those were just our list of top 10. Of course, it exceeded 10, but there were plenty of other numbers. It's the fag end of earnings season. So Sonal is here. She sifted through these numbers to tell you what the important ones could look like. Sonal?
Well, I do not have good news with all the stocks today. Deepak Fertilizers, for instance, the profits are down 86% on a year-on-year basis. They've come in at 5 crore rupees. PC Jewelers, while the revenues were up around 4%, they reported an EBITDA loss of 452 crores versus a profit last year. The auditors have also qualified their opinion, so not a good news coming in for the stock this time. EIH also, the revenues were flat at 431 crore rupees. However, the EBITDA is up 6%, but again, the profitability took a hit. And lastly, McLeod Russell, the stock has been in news for all negative reasons, and now the board meet has been postponed. It will be done before 21st June because they could not furnish the Q4 numbers this time around.
Okay, thanks a lot for all those numbers and data, Sonal. Let me quickly run you through the GDP numbers. The GDP overall is expected to come in at 6.3%. That's much softer than the 8.1% year ago. But year ago, there were a lot of one-offs. Of course, even last quarter, it was 6.6. That's third quarter. So the GDP number is not heartwarming. This is the GVA number, where you get to the GVA, where you subtract taxes add subsidies, then you get the GVA. That's 6.1 versus 7.9. This is where the fear is. It could, on a dime, go below 6%. See, the negatives are, we all know about the consumption slowdown. We all know that it could have perhaps even affected FMCG, though we had a mixed bag of data over there. But on the other hand, we have had freight traffic, which has held up, and diesel and petrol fuel consumption, which has held up. Didn't show any abnormal fall in the month of March. However, power consumption fell very sharply. We have the IIP numbers. So it's a mixed bag. We may probably make it north of 6, but just that. I mean, these are not going to be good tidings.
Okay, not good tidings for as far as growth is concerned. I guess that's something that a lot of the economists have been telling us for a while, but we'll keep an eye out on that number today. But here's some important news coming in. My colleague Nisha Podar is picking up that some more news on the Mindtree open offer. So she's joining us this morning to give us the latest on that. Hi Nisha, morning. Go ahead.
Good morning, Sonia. Yes, sources with direct knowledge have shared that Larsen & Toubro has received SEBI's open offer approval for going ahead and buying out more shares of Mindtree through an open offer route. So that's what we are gathering. It was long pending. So this particular approval was the last bit that L&T was waiting for. They have already got close to about 29% stake, our first 20% from VG Siddhartha, and the rest by picking up from the market. And now the rest of the 26% open offer launch is likely in the next few days. In fact, by 10th of June, Larsen & Toubro will have to, as per the rules, make an open offer for Mindtree. Also remember that 980 rupees per share was the price that they had earlier announced. My sources with direct knowledge have again emphasized that this price remains the same. So that needs to be noted. So yes, the final hurdle has been cleared. L&T is going to launch the open offer for Mindtree very, very soon.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Nisha. Trust you to know deals before anyone else.